Florida Gators offseason isn't going awesome, really. But we're going to talk about it today with Brian Smith here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. Happy Friday. Brandon Olsen, Locked On Gators. Follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. About to be joined by Brian Smith. Before, just wanted to remind you guys that subtext is available. Join subtext.com/LockedOnGators. Link is also in the description below. 2 weeks free, $5 a month after that, and you get quite a bit of inside information, like some stuff that you're going to hear here today with Brian Smith. Also, full disclosure that because Brian is going to the Alabama State Championship game, we recorded this right before that, so around dinner time. So if there's a coaching hire that's not talked about here, but it will be either at the time of the hire or later this evening, later Friday evening. But now here's Brian Smith. Joining me now for Locked On Gators is Brian Smith, Locked On's recruiting insider. And before we get into this chaos, LinkedIn is the college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked On Podcast Network. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. And Brian, I will tell the listeners this now. We're recording this Thursday evening. So if there's a coach hire, we're not talking about it in this whenever those announcements may come. We've been told any day now for about 2 weeks. So whenever that happens, but it won't be talked about here. But what did happen was Trevor Etienne hit the transfer portal. Princely Umanmielen hit the transfer portal. Chris McClellan hit the transfer portal. And Chris McClellan, sure, was a rotational player, not a starter, but Princely Umanmielen and Trevor Etienne were starters. And I just got to ask you, what kind of chaos must it be to be a college football head coach now, where not only are you in the early mid-December, you're recruiting high school kids, you're recruiting the transfer portal, and you have to worry about literally your best players entering the transfer portal.
Well, they're well compensated to deal with all their psychiatry bills.
Oh, yeah, $7.2 million for Billy Napier.
Yeah, he can afford a psychiatrist to hang out at the office. So maybe he needs to do that. But in all honesty, the biggest thing that I've heard that they don't like is recruiting your own roster again. But oftentimes those are the same people that are encouraging players from other schools to get in the portal. So, look, don't point at somebody else when you do it yourself. So I don't feel bad for them. Plus, they're rich. Those 2 points aside, there is no such thing as free time you have no family with. So it's got to be hard, even if you live a mile from campus. Like Mario Cristobal lives right down the street from University of Miami. Doesn't mean he's got any free time. Doesn't mean he really sees his kids. I know that a couple of the other coaches live really close, like Saban lives close, etc. Doesn't matter. He didn't see anybody. Doesn't matter. It's got to be really hard. And it's one of the reasons that guys are going up a level, going to the NFL, even if it's an analyst job. They don't deal with media. There's no recruiting. There's no NIL. There's no transfer portal. College football coaching is going to get worse because of NIL and the transfer portal. No question.
Yeah, and I mean, with the transfer portal, I'm not the type to go, oh, you need regulations. I'm just, that's not my job. That's above my pay grade, so I'm not going to care too much about that. But from Florida's side of things, what kind of indictment is it on Florida's current state of the program, whether that's the coaching staff, whatever it might be, that you're losing two of your best players? One of them is NFL eligible, but is choosing to go to the transfer portal. Because I know that with Princely Umanmielen, a lot of Florida Gators fans have said well, I thought he was going to leave anyway, so I don't care that he went to the transfer portal. The part that bothers me isn't that Princely's leaving. It's that Princely feels he's not NFL ready, but also thinks that Florida isn't the place to get him NFL ready. That's what bothers me. Not that he's leaving, but that he's choosing college. He's just choosing not the University of Florida. And I spoke to another Florida Gator that hit the transfer portal, and I was like, "Hey, why'd you leave?" And he flat out told me, "Development, strength and conditioning program."
Not great. That's not a good sign. That's a news flag. Wow, that's kind of like you're in the moment. Like, did that really just happen? Did I really just hear that? Because like Florida should never have a strength and conditioning problem. It's Florida.
And they can't
Right.
replace their strength and conditioning coach because he's also the associate head coach, so they would owe him his whole contract.
Yeah, that's not good, brother. What do you think Vegas odds are going to be on Billy making it through next year unscathed? I think they're getting worse.
Yeah,
That comment right there.
I think we're looking at like minus odds now for that he makes it through. If we're just being serious, and again, I'm not someone who's saying cut ties. I'm just saying that the way that he's operated this offseason, when so much of the talk leading into this offseason, at least from my side of things, was how Billy Napier approaches this offseason will determine if he's able to stick around. Hasn't been off to a great start.
Yeah, like, minus 200, something like that.
Yeah, some.
For every 100 you bet they get 200, something of that nature. I don't know. Look, all I know is Florida has been a hodgepodge in many different ways since Billy's been there. Now that you're losing two of your top 5 players, I think ETN was their best player. Why would I think they're going to go, especially against the schedule they have next year? Why would they go above 4-8, 5-7 next year?
Win 5-7 this year.
That's what I mean. They're 5-7 last year too, right?
6-7 last year. Made a bowl game, lost 30-3.
Well, yeah, it might have been better to go 5-7 and escape that embarrassment. Look, I don't know how they do it, but this is what they need. Looking at numbers and just raw data, quarterback to have a guy coming back, but you don't have any depth. So you have to look at quarterbacks that have multiple years. MJ Morris, somebody. I don't know. That's a possibility. You also have to reshape the running back room. Billy likes to run. They got, Barry, I think, committed to him, if I remember, as a 25 kid, but and he's super, super talented. I know him. He's electric. But getting a 5-star kid that's only going to be a junior is not very helpful, or he's going to be a senior next fall. They need somebody there as well to come in and play. We'll see if that happens. I think they got one. But with the offensive line they have, I'm not sure, because I don't know if Herschel Walker in his Georgia days is going to be able to get through with what Florida's doing. For the love of God, somebody get the Florida Gators an offensive tackle. the kid just Jordan Seaton's going to Colorado. Getting beat by Colorado for a recruit is not a good look. It is not. They're terrible. I know Dion's there, but they're terrible. What are we doing here? So I think that's pretty wild. I also think there's an opportunity for them now with McClellan. I thought he could have been a starter this next year. There aren't many portal guys like arguably the number one portal guy at D tackle, and take out Walter Nolan from this. Florida's not getting him. They're not going to dump into that money pit for NIL. Might be the guy at the University of Pennsylvania, an Ivy League kid. It's not exactly a deep pool.
Tomorrow.
Oh, he's going to. Is he visiting?
Yep, he set it up.
Joey Slackman's his name. He's a good player, but he's a bulldozer. He is not a thoroughbred. I would imagine he's more of a 1-tech. Conservatively, he could play 3-tech, but he's not going to be a pass rusher. They still need another guy if they get him. Who's it going to be? LT Overton, the other kid from A&M, might be the other best D tackle in it, but I have no idea where he's looking. Florida also needs another edge rusher. They also need the secondary. Just I have no idea. 2 guys maybe, but I thought they had a lot of talent. You and I talked about this a lot. So you're balancing all of that, and it comes down to this. How many of them end up being impact guys from the portal versus high-end kids that Florida can get that are coming in? Question for you, Brandon. Since the firings, how many defensive players have they lost from the 24 class?
Since the firings? None officially yet, but yeah.
So I'm obviously going to bring up Amaris. They cannot lose him.
Gonna. I'm just.
I think so too.
I think right now Florida's number 3 for Amaris. I don't know what the order is, but 1 and 2 I think would have to be Ohio State and Auburn.
That's not great for the Gators, but in case you don't know, he's from Clinton, North Carolina. I personally think he's the best interior defensive lineman in the country. And I like guys that get up the field that are 1 tech, 3 tech kind of guys that are 1 gap and go. He's not a hold the point of attack guy. He's to get up the field and beat my man and make a tackle for loss. But in Florida's scheme, he'd be the perfect number 3 or 3 tech. He'd be perfect because they get a lot of big nose guards that you have to double. So Amaris would be single. That can't happen. They also need somebody else to step up at linebacker to have a little more depth, in my opinion. I think they're a lot better at receiver than people give them credit for. Tight end wasn't as good as the numbers probably shouldn't have been. Could they use one? Sure. But they need to figure out blocking and stuff. They might take a blocking tight end to help too. I mean, I know you and I have talked about that. Not great. Okay. Setting the edge, etc. I'm thinking they need 7, 8 guys from the portal minimum that are higher end guys. And that doesn't count whether they take a kicker, a long snapper, maybe another offensive lineman, an interior guy. They could take 12 or more this year.
I mean, tell you, PrizePicks has been the best way for me to make money playing daily fantasy sports this year. And if you've got skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with a few easy taps and research. It's simple and easy to play with quick withdrawals too. And it's what makes PrizePicks the number 1 daily fantasy sports app. And let me tell you, it's been a good couple weeks on PrizePicks. Okay, Killian Hayes, I very much appreciate you. I know a lot of people don't. I appreciate you. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Remember that PrizePicks is daily fantasy sports made easy.
Now I'm going to kick this back to you. What is your realistic expectation at critical spots like D-line, O-line? Realistically.
Not great. just my issue here is that when we look at how Billy Napier has handled the transfer portal during his first couple years here, some of the best players that he's brought in have been players that he brought with him from Louisiana. Montreal Johnson was a true freshman at Louisiana, brought him over. Fine transition to the SEC, hasn't been an issue. Osiris Torrance was with him at Louisiana, brought him over. Fine transition to the SEC, All-American year with Florida. But there haven't been many indications to me that this coaching staff will go into the transfer portal and go get an impact player right away. The offensive lineman that they brought in last year, I'll completely exclude Keontae Goodwin from it because obviously that was an off-field personal matter that caused him to leave. So it wasn't even like it wasn't one of those cases where he just didn't work out or anything like that. But then you look at Damian George was their guy that they brought in last year on the offensive line from Alabama. You may be familiar with him as the guy who Jared Verse threw into Max Brown in the Florida State game. Lindell Hudson from FIU came in to just be a depth tackle, and he played well when he had to do that. But then you also had Micah Mazuka, who this past year was not good, just straight up wasn't good, had that shoulder injury that clearly limited him. And that's why I'm like, it's very hard for me to look at how this coaching staff has approached the portal and think, okay, they're going to do it. They've had success with guys trying to take the step up into the SEC, as in established starters trying to take that step up. You look at what Cam Jackson did, D tackle from Memphis, all conference player, came up to the SEC, had a pretty strong year as a nose tackle. Ricky Pearsall from the Pac-12, low Pac-12 with Arizona State to the SEC. Great year this year, going to be an NFL draft pick. But the whole approach that Florida has seemingly taken of let's take these Power 5 cast-offs and try to make them work hasn't worked. Because if you take in the players that aren't good enough to play at Georgia or Alabama, you're not going to beat Georgia or Alabama. So the transfer portal approach for me is just one of the things where I don't know how you look at the approach and think they'll be all right this coming year. I'm not saying they can't be, but what have they done to show confidence that they will be able to do that?
Oh boy. I guess the proof part is the deal. Because they've had a little bit of success, but are they making the right evaluations in general is what you're pointing to. It's been random with what the result is based on where they were ranked. Like George was at Bama. And he is a guard that was thrusted into playing tackle, and I'll grant you that. But beyond that, I mean, thinking about their O-line, I think Jake might have been their best offensive lineman by the end of the year. It's at least debatable. I'm not. I know Jake. He's a good guy, by the way. Great kid.
Yeah, there were 2 offensive linemen that I wasn't completely disappointed with, and it was Jake Slaughter and Richie Leonard IV at left guard. That was it.
I don't know what I'm supposed to say to that, because if you're a line of scrimmage team, which Billy has all but come out and said, there needs to be other moves made on the roster, if you know what I mean, if that's the case. I ain't talking about the player roster. So, all right, I'm just going to ask it. I'm going to put you on the spot. Over under on whether or not Billy makes a move before signing day with the offensive coaching staff.
I think he makes a move. I don't know if it's on the offensive line. I think he hires an OC. From what I've been told, there have been talks, but nothing's final yet on that front. But I don't know what you do on the offensive line, because you have Rob Sale and Darnell Stapleton. Rob Sale is the most likely one to stay because he's got that prior relationship with Billy. But Rob Sale's in charge of the tackles, and the tackles were the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life this past year. So it's really hard to realistically project what's going to happen, because he got rid of Sean Spencer and Corey Raymond, still has both of the offensive line coaches around. I think he makes an OC hire, but it wouldn't, I think, impact the O-line.
Here's what I know. When you hire a coordinator, they usually want to bring in their own guys. So he probably wants to hire that person, have a conversation, which I'm sure he's kind of doing now. And he wants a smaller window for how long he has more coaches not on staff, which is smart. But it's hard. It's probably both or none, because I don't think you're going to give one or the other the entire line based on what happened this year. So unless, you could do it, there's a bonus too. If you go with one O-line coach, that's another spot. Then you could hire a tight ends coach, or so, I don't know. Maybe it's a special teams coach.
Please.
But I mean,
please.
I mean, that's why I'm like, I'm just going to say this out loud because Florida fans are ready to shoot their computer screen talking about this. But my goodness, Florida's special teams are less than special. Yes, pun intended, completely bad joke, all the above, but it's still true.
Hey, I've been making the joke all year that Billy Napier calls them the game changers, and he never promised that they would positively change the game. So he wasn't wrong by calling them game changers. We assumed he meant that they would positively change the game, and that is our fault for making that bold assumption.
Oh boy, not great. I think that Florida, they need a lot of new blood just to turn the leaves. It's just like going from summer to fall, then fall to winter. You just need a new batch. Turn the leaves, brother. They need to play with their hair on fire next year, but this roster, man, I'm not feeling warm and fuzzy about the portal, because if you're waiting this long to get coaches in, they got to evaluate guys for the portal and their roster. They're going to miss half the portal season before it's just This time, this is a catastrophe. A full-blown Florida Gators catastrophe. Besides that, it's going great.
Oh, yeah. Besides that, it's wonderful. With passion, drive, and patience, that's what brings home the winning trophy. And it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices that you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply, and eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers.
One more point here. Quarterback, it's ironic. They have somebody coming back with experience, play pretty well this year. They're one of the few teams, you go through quarterbacks like water in college football these days. If you could only pick one spot, and since quarterback's not an option for Florida, which one are you most concerned about next year?
Offensive line.
I would say so too. But
Especially
the way the secondary,
you lost the guy who can turn nothing into something. Montrell's a fine back. He's not turning nothing into something. So you lost the guy who could turn nothing into something. You have a quarterback who's not mobile, and proved that when he was getting cracked in the skull repeatedly, he wasn't going to be playing too great at that point, because, can't throw the ball out from your back. So it has to be offensive line for me.
defensive back would be number 2 for me, but I think that's kind of being disingenuous because they need more pass rush from the middle. They need more depth. All those things work first before the secondary comes into play. So one way or the other, it's either secondary 2 or D-line 2. Feel free to play with that how you see fit. I don't know if we should really go beyond that, because if they don't fix those areas, in between those 3 spots, you could be talking about 6, 7 guys they need. But again, we're going to go back to it. How many guys are in position already to make evaluations on the roster, go after portal guys, and have a system, all those things in place before to making staff changes? They're losing daylight here, if you know what I mean. Billy's got to get it rolling, and part of it is Florida doing background checks and stuff, and I get it. It's unfortunate, but this is going to be the norm every year. Everybody's put through this task. UF is not the only one. So if they don't get some things done quickly, one of the things they need to look at, what's going on in HR? Why is this taking so long? Let's get the ball rolling here. Because every day you miss having a coach at any position, that's one less day that a guy can call into your office and say, hey, I want to talk to the D-line coach. Oh, we don't have one. Are you getting that portal kid?
We'll find out. Joey Slackman's going to be on campus. Joey Slackman's about to be on campus, and there's no D-line coach announced. Again, at the time of recording this, early Thursday evening.
That's hilarious, by the way. Hilarious.
Yes. You got, honestly, it's kind of impressive that you got him to agree to.
That is a great point.
Without a defensive line coach. Chris McClellan committed when there wasn't even a head coach. So, which, by the way, that one didn't work out well considering he's in the transfer portal. But I did want to ask also, because we've spent, and this is like, we're not even talking, this isn't even a recruiting show. We're just doing lockdown roster building here. But so much of the first 2 years of Billy Napier's tenure, when the product has looked bad on field, and I don't just mean outside of the coaching things, I mean genuinely, like the players just look poor, whether it's Jason Marshall or whoever it might be on offense, because all of them. But the excuse has often been, oh, like, get the Mullen guys out. Like, when the Mullen guys are out, it's fine. Let Billy get his guys. Half of Billy's transition class is in the transfer portal. He brought in 21 kids in his transition class. 10 of them are in the transfer portal. From the 2022 class, or from the 2023 class, he's already lost Will Norman as one of the kids. what do you even do here? Because we can't say wait till Billy gets his guys in, because his guys are coming here and then leaving.
That is water is coming over the sides. There are holes in the hull. It's a rudderless ship. These are all phrases that come to mind that come along with, being on a boat. You can't lose guys in the portal in general. I mean, there's going to be a few that leave, but not linemen that were productive. They lost 2 D linemen already that were productive. The secondary is anemic. I haven't heard anything about. Have they got anybody coming in to your knowledge that's going to visit? That's a corner or safety.
No, I don't think so. Nope. I think the only portal guy that's currently publicly scheduled is Joey Slackman. They've offered a couple DBs, but none at the time of recording have set up visits.
Man, I'm kind of at a loss because, there's usually, if you're Florida, Slackman is good. I mean, he's a good player, but there's usually some momentum going here because it's Florida. It's not that hard to recruit to Florida. It's just not. So, where is it? Why am I missing all this? What's going on here?
I don't know, man. That's the hardest part about covering this team is I don't know what the hell's going on right now. I know that they've contacted quite a few players, but really hard to build your roster when you may have your DB coach in place. They've been telling people behind the scenes that they have their guy, but you don't have anything locked in. Xavier Filsaime is set to take a visit to Texas next week. It's a tough time because it's hard to give the excuse of wait till Billy gets his guys because Billy's getting his guys and not retaining them. Trevor Etienne was a Billy guy, and he's gone. Kamari Wilson was a Billy guy, and although he never played, he's gone. And he was a very highly ranked recruit when he became a Billy guy. Will Norman, Chris McClellan, all Billy guys, all gone. So I think that's where it's really confusing for me because I don't even know what to say because the only thing this team is doing cohesively is falling apart.
That is a great quote. I need to get that on a shirt.
Big old Gator logo on it. There we go.
I don't know, man. I can't really help you much more. I said this to some people earlier today on another podcast. We'll know more, and this you can apply any school to this, by the end of the weekend because a lot of the kids are taking visits right now, or they will by Friday. So Sunday, Monday, there'll be news. This school's in, the school's out. I'm committed, whatever. I need to add whatever it is. But they got to take visits. So right now we're a little bit of speculation, but I'll leave my last comment with this. Right now, I am not very optimistic about this situation for next year for Florida because they don't have many guys visiting that we know of. Now that could, let's be honest, they're trying to sneak something in at a lot of schools. Maybe Florida's one of them. And 2, I don't think development is at the highest level right now. And I'm being very kind. So I know your thoughts on that. If you want to comment on that, it's entertainment for me.
Oh, I've said it every damn day this week where it's very telling that Princely Emmanuel feels he's not NFL ready, but he also feels that Florida won't get him NFL ready. It's very telling that a different player in the transfer portal from Florida told me it's about development and strength and conditioning program. I feel like that's as telling as it can be. And then you look at the players, and I think safeties developed well last year. Austin Armstrong was coaching them, not even Corey Raymond, the guy that you paid over $1 million to handle the secondary. So I think that when you look at just what's gone on, nothing really trends upward right now. And it's like, I know that I'm going to get the YouTube comments that are just like, stop being so negative. There just genuinely haven't been positive things coming out of this program for a little while now. And so that's where, for me, it's like, I try to be a generally optimistic person, but man, looking for a needle in a haystack here.
Oh boy. So that's all I got, man. I'm not going to put your guys in any more psychiatry situations.
I'm billing Billy Napier for my therapist. I don't have a therapist. I'm getting a therapist, and I'm sending the bill directly to
Gainesville, Florida office, just send the bill there.
Directly to him. And I'm gonna email the SID and let him know that it's on the way. Thank you so much, Brian. This is Brian Smith, Locked On's recruiting insider, and also the host of Locked On Seminoles, which is very unfortunate. But hey, he's not going to be doing a college football playoff show. I'm not going to be doing a bowl game show. So we have that. But thank you so much, Brian. Catch him all throughout the Locked On College channel and every week with Locked On Gators. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be back, honestly, when there's news. I don't know what to tell you, but we'll be back. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole 9 Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33, and I will see you all tomorrow.